mean, it's terrible. It's like, in my grown life, I've never bought bologna, but that's a great little tune, isn't it? I mean, who can't finish that? It's so genius. And I think the one that is really, really good is this one. Skittles, right? Skittles taste the
rainbow.
What have they marketed to us like crazy now as far as a good health tip in the stores? Eat the rainbow. Ta-da! It's too darn good. This stuff is so good. I love it. But they're ahead of the game, and Skittles taste the rainbow, right? They always say, hey, go into the market, get enough things with enough color in them, like the rainbow, and if you're eating enough color, we're good, right? Is it any wonder that all these drinks, Gatorades, all these guys, what are they doing? They're just coloring this stuff to make it more appealing to the eye, right? And then we consume it, and we go on. Wheaties, the breakfast of champions, right? Let's see if we can look at this guy. This guy was on the cover of Wheaties, 2010. Man, I don't know, but he doesn't look real healthy to me.
Did he eat them and lose weight or something?
Hot dog day.
I mean, that's just not the epitome of health. And we say the breakfast of champions, guys. One of the worst things we know we could do physiologically is eat processed cereal in the morning time. If you're going to pick a time to do that, that is like bad news. Is to eat cereal in the morning, and the reason is because you're more susceptible to a blood sugar rush. Okay, when you wake up after sleep. Part of it's just a neurological reflex. Down, body dumps out a little bit of sugar. You don't want to dump a whole bunch more sugar into the system. There's a study that they said happened one time that they took rats, 3 groups of rats. They took something that was like equivalent, it was like a cornflakes type thing, and they just made the 3 groups. So one group they fed nothing, they starved them. The second group they gave the cereal to. The third group they just cut up and gave a little flavoring to the cardboard box that the cereal was in. And then they just wanted to see what would happen. Check it out. Should be obvious who died first, right? Starved. But guess who died next? With disease. Chronic disease. Heart disease. Blood sugar dysregulation issues. They got fat. The ones eating the cornflakes. Okay? The other ones probably got just enough fiber from the box to just sustain for a little bit longer. But they weren't creating early degenerative disease with processed nonsense that was creating inflammatory problems all through their body, screwing up their weight, screwing up whatever. So, things like Wheaties, the breakfast of champions. Oh, check it out too. Whole grain guaranteed, right? What does that even mean? They can put anything they want on this stuff. This could be genetically modified grain, okay? Overly processed, overly heated, proteins are all disturbed. It's just one of those things that it's organic, right? We all know that actually pretty suspect. No trans fats. How can a bag of Fritos have no trans fats? You ever look at that? No trans fats. Is that even possible, right? Well, the way it's possible is that they just got under the radar and said instead of having 1 gram of trans fats per serving, we can go 0.9 and we can label it as 0. Pretty cool, huh? Or maybe not so cool if you're the consumer and you don't know what's going on. It's pretty crazy what they can do on some of this marketing. One of my favorite quotes is Mark Twain, where he says, the problem in this life isn't what we don't know, it's the stuff we know for sure that just ain't so. Digest that one, for a second. It's a pretty good one, and it kind of goes across the board. We're talking about health, we're talking about religion, we're talking about politics. You hear it all the time. People are just so darn sure about something. However they got the information, whatever it is, but they're just so darn sure that it is correct. Yet there's a real high possibility that some of it isn't. And I tell you, the health world is as dangerous as it comes with that. Well, there was a scientist that went and looked at the composition of food ingredients, that is to say, carbohydrate to fat to protein, looking at the grains, the animal sources, where's that food coming from? He said, what does a farmer do to feed his cows, chickens, or hogs if he wants to fatten them up, right? Because we all know that that's what they're doing, right? And grass-fed is one of those ones. It's another kind of shady topic, because most of your grass-fed meat, just ask the butcher, what they're doing. Most of the grass-fed meat is fed up to about 3 months. Those animals are fed about 3 months before they're going to slaughter them, and then what do? They grain feed them to death, right? To get that extra fat. So they can still label it as grass-fed. But really, here's the thing. In that 3 months, what they've shown is that the composition of the meat and the fats in that animal changes dramatically as a result of the grains. And that's where we get inflamed, right? That animal product now becomes not so good. But they can label it as grass-fed, and they all do it. In the last 3 months, no more grass. They blast them with grains, get them fat, and then they slaughter them, okay? So what does a farmer feed his cows, chickens, and hogs if he wants to fatten them up?
Wheaties.
Well, interestingly enough, up until just recently, this is virtually the exact same composition, percentage-wise, of food. And that would be what they have given us for about 30 years, was what we call the food guide pyramid. And what's so phenomenal to me about that is that we look at it and we get surprised that people are overweight. We get surprised that people have blood sugar issues. How in the world can we be surprised when we've got farmers that have been using this exact same ratio and composition to get their animals fat for years? This is what they use. Yet, when all of us, looking at the group in here, when we were going through elementary school early, this is what they told us to eat, right? We saw it. First, second, third grade. And so, this has changed, by the way. They finally have kind of changed it, a little bit, at least. And they're kind of trying to make it a little bit more like the Mediterranean food guide pyramid, which is cool. But just to let you know that, this is what farmers are using. Pretty wild. And then we look around, and again, we've got, a third of this population, quarter of this population that's overweight. All right, do this for me. Rank the following meats. Okay, look at those meats. Rank them 1 healthiest, 4 least healthy. Fish is the healthiest.
Well, it depends. Is the fish farm raised or is it wild? Or
Yeah, is it a shark that's real old, got a lot of mercury in it? Or is it salmon?
Good, so you guys are right on.
Was it
right?
a wild caught cow or is it?
or is it I-5 Couchwitz, right? We call that Couchwitz out there on I-5.
Harris Ranch.
It's you guys are right on, right? I mean, you guys kind of get this, but the United States as a whole doesn't get this. So tell me what you're a average kind of overweight person, sitting in the United States. How do you rank this when you look at that? If you're going, I think they tell me this is what I should do to lose some weight and get healthy. How do you rank it?
They would say fish and chicken first, pork and beef last.
Yeah, good.
The other white meat.
Yeah, you're totally right on, right? Beef has been demonized the most, right? Beef has been demonized the most, and then fish has been kind of, put up there as that kind of angelic food, and then, chicken was right behind it, and like you said, pork, the other white meat. What happened kind of crazily in this whole thing, and chicken is the one that took the most advantage of this, because it was easiest to farm them, was as soon as beef got demonized, everybody went to chicken, especially the breast meat, right? That white meat kind of thing. Less fat on it. Remember, we got all talked into the no fat thing, so we went to the white meat chicken. These guys started creating a toxic nightmare among your chickens. One of them being what you said in the back was heavy metals. They're using heavy metals in these, specifically arsenic, in the feed. And the reason they do that is because arsenic's a neurotoxin. And so it tricks these chickens' brains into overeating, right? So it's toxic as hell with heavy metals, and then they're overeating, and then what are they eating? Are they eating good, high-quality food? They're out there pecking in the field? No, of course not. They're giving them tons of grain. So chicken took this, it's incredible. And you still ask people today, everybody still thinks chicken's the great thing. I think you make a very, very good argument that chicken's the most toxic meat on the planet. The only other thing you can make a better argument for potentially is this highly toxic fish, you know, that are getting poisoned in some of the ocean stuff. And again, for the same reason, a lot of heavy metals. But chicken is unreal. You don't have to look very far to find out what they've been doing with these guys. And they just got away with it because everybody was focused on how bad beef was, right? Beef is terrible. So chicken took big advantage, and you got some really, really poisonous product. Here's how you look at this thing very, very quickly, okay? When you look at fats, bad fats versus good fats, a lot of it is found in these animal products, okay? And it's a fatty acid profile, they call it. And we'll make it really simple. There's one called omega-6 and one called omega-3, okay? These guys in nature, if you went and got an elk, you know, you're up in Montana, you go grab an elk, you look at the ratio of those fats, and you're looking at about a 1.5 to 1 or 2 to 1 ratio between omega-3 fats and omega-6. That's just how nature does it, okay? Your cells, where we measure it on people, is in the red blood cell. You look at the red blood cell membrane, that's about where your ratio should be. Now, there's a lot of research on this stuff. The kind of unarguable number is anything 4 to 1 or less, so 3 to 1, 2 to 1, 1 to 1, is really good. It means that your inflammation profile is really healthy. Okay? And that's what we talk about all the time, right? Inflammation, heart disease, cancer, you know, diabetes, whatever. Anything above that, we start to run the risk of being more inflamed and increase the probability of having any one of those lifestyle-related diseases. Okay? So our food really influences what our red blood cell membranes show when we measure it. You know, what's that ratio like? And we know that there's a lot of people taking like fish oil supplements and stuff. Why are they doing it? Because they're getting a high dose of these good fats in the right ratios. So it's making them healthier. Anti-inflammation, look at it for anything. You can find fish oil studies on everything. Everything. Brain, skin, heart disease, doesn't matter. Okay? It's good for it all if you balance those ratios. In animals that are farm raised, okay, that are eating all grain, what you start to see is you start to see ratios anywhere, get this, from 25 to 1 to 400 to 1 in favor of omega-6 fats, okay? Omega-6 fats, particularly something called arachidonic acid. Doesn't matter. Omega-6 fats are what's called your pro-inflammatory fats. Omega-3 is anti-inflammatory, omega-6 is pro. Tell me, why do we need pro-inflammatory fat? Why do we need to be able to detect inflammation? I mean, just as a human, just walking around. We need to be able to have those omega-6s. Why? Well,
So you know something's wrong.
yeah, you know something's wrong. I mean, you fall down, you hit the ground, skin up your knee, you gotta be able to know that, right? You gotta be able to feel that. You gotta know what the heck is going on a little bit. So it's not omega-6s are bad, it's just that they're supposed to be in a ratio with the anti-inflammatory ones, right? But now all of a sudden we're getting 25 to 1 up to 400 to 1 in favor of the pro-inflammatory fats. Well, guess what? Keep eating like that, and now your body starts to create this inflammation, and now your own ratios get really off. Okay? It's kind of interesting. Well, you go and get that elk or that buffalo or that good piece of fish that's not toxic, not farm raised, hasn't been eating grain, hasn't been eating soy. Those ratios are right there. 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 1.5 to 1. Right? And you keep your inflammation down. Really simple. So it's really, really important, I think, when anytime we go get animal product, including eggs, you know, we haven't talked about eggs yet, but getting eggs, the same thing happens to the eggs. The eggs inflammation marker gets out of control when you're getting these things from grain-based or grain-fed eggs. So it's kind of cool because we can kind of decipher what's going on. The literature that, you know, that's out there now estimates the average American's at a 17 to 1 ratio. Okay? 17 to 1, anything over 10 to 1, they all agree, means that you accelerate your aging and onset of death, okay, by one of the lifestyle-related conditions. Anything 10 to 1 or over, right? They average about 17 to 1 is what they suggest. Well, not a huge surprise. I mean, if everybody's overweight, right, heart disease not getting better, right, diabetes, we got cancer, they're all related to acidity and inflammation. It's not a huge surprise that that's where we're there, but here's the cool thing, you can change that. And people do all the time on their blood tests. It's pretty cool, and you can do it in about 3 months. too. You do a blood test, and then 3 months later, you go, God, I was 17 to 1. Boom, bring that thing down right to 8 to 1. Boom, bring that thing down to 6 to 1. Bring that thing down to 5 to 1. And it goes back to what we talked about at the beginning. Probabilities, guys. If your omega-3 to omega-6 ratio is 4 to 1 or less, the probability that you get heart disease is next to none. The probability that you get any of these lifestyle-related diseases is next to none. It's pretty cool. You know, it's important to kind of get that sense. So look at any of those meats, you guys get it. Where the heck is the meat coming from to rank it, right? So there could be toxic chicken or good chicken, toxic fish, toxic beef, good beef. And I think it's an important thing to kind of make sure that we're paying attention to.
Would you say that the toxicity level of foods goes up as you go up the food chain? So if you know, economically, if you have a choice between buying organic fruits and vegetables versus buying organic meats, and you're a meat eater, you're a consistent meat eater, you should go for the organic, truly grass-fed meats, and then forego if you had to make a choice.
Gosh, I don't know. I would hate to have to make that decision.
Well, I know.
You know what I mean? I think that's a dependent one too. I mean, some of your genetically modified vegetables that are heavily sprayed, you know, pesticide laden and so forth, maybe grown in dirt that's pretty mineral deficient too. I mean, we know that that's kind of a big deal. A couple of pretty good sources on that. Yeah, I mean, maybe you do the animal product, but again, this is kind of like it's funny, you know, being in this area, making this talk and kind of discussing these things. We're really wide open to all this stuff, right? And we've got farmers markets, and we can grow all our own stuff here year round, and we have more availability than a lot of the country. So I think here you wouldn't have to make that decision, but maybe you're in the Midwest, or you know, you're in the Northeast, where you know it's hard to get some of these fresh fruits and vegetables at different times of the year. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, they're probably both equally toxic. And again, that's that scanner, right? We walk through and go, hey, look, your genes don't really want to be exposed to pesticides. You are at a really high risk of hormonal imbalance, you know, and those pesticides may do that to you. You know, we know that, you know, estrogen disturbers and so forth. So you're going to want to really, really hang back away from anything that's near pesticide. Right? It'd be cool if we could do that. We can't quite do that yet. There is some cool genetic stuff kind of going on, but anyway, I think this is just interesting too, just to think about with regards to genetically modified food. You guys probably know that they're genetically modifying salmon now, and you wonder what the animals are thinking about some of the stuff that's out there. There's some goofy stuff going on. You read about some of the fish they're finding in lakes and so forth. Some came out of Lake Michigan last year, where now you got these fish that they can't tell what sex they are. They've got a little bit of both, and it's just this kind of really goofy situation. But the reason is because of some of the environmental changes, and now all of a sudden, so you wonder if these other animals that eat that fish, and go, what the hell is this? You know, what happened to the old stuff? I thought that was pretty good. Let's do a couple of these things. You know, these are some good ones too. True or false? Too much sun causes skin cancer. Suntan lotion prevents skin cancer. Right? I mean, these are definitely things that are in the news a lot. Right? We got a lot of skin cancer in this country right now. I mean, tons of it. And you know, if you don't catch it early enough, a lot of people are dying from it too, which is pretty scary. But too much sun, is sun the reason that we all have skin cancer? And then is suntan lotion really helping us prevent skin cancer? Any thoughts?
Suntan lotion is super toxic.
Well,
Yeah, you know,
what
that-
type you're using, because some of the zinc-based stuff is
Yeah,
more of an actual physical barrier.
Well, yeah. If you use coconut
Yeah,
and
so-
carrot
yeah,
seed
so-
oil based suntan lotion, then it might go away.
So yeah, totally. So I mean, it's worth discussing, right? Because it's kind of one of those things that nobody seems to have the answer on.
Coconut oil.
And again, what are the things we can do to increase the probability that we don't end up with skin cancer? Yeah, so that's an interesting point right there. Stay inside, right? So one of the most
Cover up.
so check it out. One of the most compelling studies I think out there, and again, I get it. You know, Mark Twain said that there's lies, damn lies, and statistics. And believe me, I just read this stuff and